Jodocast Stryfe.
Folks, Jodocast again. What I am doing is a revamp of my Stryfe Scar. I am rebuilding it to specifications for my own personal use, and I'm building it how I want it, with the bits that I want to put in it, from having to play around and with the development of technology and what have you since I originally built the first one. Now we've got things like 3D printed morpheus cages with aluminium guides. We've got these things called MOSFETs that allow you to use your original little switches, and we've got things like a select fire kit, what have you, which have come about since I built the original one. Now Scar is my favourite AR, and my Stryfe Scar was like one of my favourite builds. It performs well, but I can get more out of it. Accidentally, I tested this modulus, what am I talking about? Morpheus cage the other day. I just quickly sort of spun it up and passed a dart through it just by hand, and the thing shot out of my garage door, which was open, proceeded down my driveway, across the street, across the neighbour's front lawn, across the footpath, across the nature strip, across the footpath, across his front lawn, across his front path, and then hit the front wall of his house. Still at the same level at which it left my garage. So I was extremely impressed, to say the least. So I'm very much looking forward to putting this in. It's running Fangs revamped, and I'll be running it actually on a 3S pack. But what I wanted to talk about right this second, I'll show you the blaster and I'll go through the fitting of the stuff to it, but what I wanted to talk about just briefly before I get too far into the mechanics of it is the paint job, because I'm doing a custom paint job, which is also again very much for my purposes and for how I want to build the thing, and for myself. So it's going to have my touch on it. It's going to be very much my signature blaster. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a paint scheme that is like Boba Fett's armor. So the paint method that's used in the cosplay industry or game is to do it properly, to get the right effect on when you're doing your Mandalorian armor, is a multi-layered paint effect. So what you do is you prepare your surface and then you start with a coat of silver to give it a metallic look. So that makes the object look like it is made out of metal. So what I've done here is I'm just going to give you a bit of a brief sort of guide and show you sort of how it's done and the desired effect, how it ends up. So basically you paint your surface, you prepare your surface, give it a sand, what have you, and then paint it with a nice metallic silver paint to give you that metallic look. Now what we're doing is like a chipped effect, so it's like it's been damaged in battle or shot up by a blaster. So what we use, you can use liquid latex, or you can use a masking fluid, or you can use just good old white glue or PVA glue. Essentially what it does is it forms a layer over certain areas of the paintwork and masks them off. So it's like a liquid masking tape. Oh, you can buy a product called liquid masking tape as well. So essentially what you do is just get a little bit of the white glue, put it onto a surface like so. You can leave it for a little while to sort of solidify a little bit, to thicken up a little bit. It becomes a little bit easier to work with. But essentially what you want to do is you work out where you want to put like a scuff or a scratch or what have you on your piece, and you basically lay some glue onto there reasonably thickly, so or in a reasonably thick manner. So I'm going to just sort of dot it across here this edge, so it gives it a bit of a sort of a chipped sort of look. So you imagine once you put your paint on, and then you lift this glue back off, what you're going to be left with is the visible silver. So I'll do an edge like that along there, and you want it on reasonably thick so that once it actually solidifies and hardens, it's quite easy to actually lift back off. And then I'll do a bit of a slew in this low section here, right up to the leading edge, and sort of branch it out across that leading edge there. Perfect. And then we'll just drag this back, thin it out as it drags back a little bit. Alright. So now basically what you do is you just leave that for the glue to solidify, and then once you've done that, you can put your base coat over the top, which first coat that goes over the top is like an undercoat. So in this case you use like an undercoat sort of colour, like a spray primer type colour. I'll just grab what I've done so far. So that's the scar there. So I'll move that out the way, allow it to dry. So now I don't know whether you can make it out, it's probably not highly visible, but there's blobs of glue underneath this coat of paint along certain edges and certain areas. The idea of which is that they'll be lifted off to show the silver underneath. And let's try and do that for you with section right now. Let's have a look here. I'll just do it with this one here. Might be easy to use a way perhaps. See if we can catch that glue, and there we go, and pop it off. And as you can see, the glue just pops off and exposes the silver underneath. So you're left with this like exposed metal sort of look. And then strangely enough, the next thing we're going to do is actually put more glue back over the top of it, but slightly encase around it so we cover the silver section, and we also cover just a little bit of the undercoat section, like a ring of the undercoat section around the actual painted part. So what I'll do is I'll go and I'll pop these off, and then we'll start to lay some of the glue back over. Peeling all this off, and I'll come back and show you once we've got it all peeled off and we're ready for the next coat. Alright, so this is the sort of overall effect once you've removed that first layer of masking. So you can see that where I've peeled the glue back off, it's exposed the silver chrome paint that was underneath. So it gives that sort of chipped paint look, because, well, realistically that's exactly what it is. You've chipped the paint and it's exposed the silver underneath, which is supposed to be the metal. Okay, so once you've done your silver, put your glue down where you want it to show peeled, then put your base coat on. You can then, once your base coat is dried, you peel the glue off and it'll expose the silver. Then what you want to do is go over the silver parts again with the glue, but this time cover a bigger area. So It leaves like a rim of the undercoat showing, so we've put the glue on there, covered back over the silver areas, and left a fair chunk of excess on there. So we'll let that solidify now, and then we'll come back in and do our additional colours over the top, so you can see what it will come up like. Now I've done the second coat of colouring over the top of the blaster here, so we've got a green coat of re-glued. You can sort of just see the resin sections there where I've applied the glue back over those silver sections where it was peeled off, so you can see them there. So I've gone back over with this green, sort of a army green sort of colour, and done a bit of a black dusting from a distance to sort of give it that, you can see it's got that speckled sort of look to it. So just to make it sort of look dirtied up a little bit and what have you. I will come in later and do some washing, so with some other products which are designed to make it look even dirtier again. So it's like a charcoal type, powdered charcoal. You paint it, you brush it on, and then dust off the majority of it, and it leaves these dirty sort of sections that make it look really well weathered and what have you. Then once it's all done, we come in with a clear matte finish and go over it with that matte clear to just seal it all and protect it, and hopefully keep your paintwork in reasonable condition, although it's already banged up, so you wouldn't know. The other thing we'll do is with these blast marks, we'll put in a little bit of black lines through it, a little bit of carbon scoring, as they would say in the Star Wars universe. So that's where we're at so far. So we'll come back and I'll show you it as we make some more progress. So we ran into some hiccups with the assembly and the Selectify kit, putting the Selectify kit in that the motor seized up and on the sort of test, and it blew the circuit board. So it the Selectify kit dead. So I spoke to the guys over at Light Take and told them what happened and what have you, and I ordered a couple of more circuit boards as replacements for that kit. But in the meantime, they sent me this new V6 kit, and I started sort of having a look, mucking around, putting it into place to see how it all went together. And next thing you know, bada bing, it's all actually installed, it's all done. I don't really want to pull it apart just to show you how it all went in, but essentially let me run you through what's what. There's now a 3S lipo battery mounted in the stock here. So that's inside the stock, and the connector is glued into the stock mount position. So when you put the stock on, you plug the battery in and then the stock slides on, and this screw holds it in place. The Selectify kit still uses this outside selector switch to select between single fire, 3-shot burst and full auto. But this V6 kit is freaking amazing. Like, it is awesome. Light Take, you nailed it. This, like, thank you so much for sending me this as the replacement, because I could not wish for a better kit in my blaster. This is exactly what I wanted for this blaster. Exactly. I'm so happy with it. Like, I mean, I'm lost for words. Let me run you through what the kit can do. All right. There's a dart gate, a light gate in the front here, so it detects whether there's darts present in the magazine. The actual pusher mechanism has a little magnetic switch in it, so it detects the cycling. That's how it counts your darts, etc. This is actually a logic system, so it has an actual full system on it. It's not just a matter of timed relay switches, etc. It's actually quite intricate. there's a replacement for your mag release that goes in, where your magazine release goes in, sits in the blaster, which has a little actuator for a switch. There's a circuit board that mounts in here. It has 3 little switches on it. There's one at the bottom here and then 2 upper ones. The bottom switch connects to your trigger, to your mag release switch. Now I've used the Artifact mag release and trigger. I did have a Bobo Lolo style rev trigger, but that's done away with. You don't need it with this kit. You can still rev the blaster up before you fire because it's a 2-stage trigger. You actually, that's what the 2 switches are for. As you pull the trigger back, then the first switch is disengaged. It starts the revs. Because the secondary board up the top here has its own built-in MOSFET. So you're running your motors through a MOSFET from your lipo on its own separate trigger, so you can rev it up prior to engaging the firing mechanism. So you've got a MOSFET set up. It runs on a 3S lipo, the 2-stage trigger, so you can pull it and just rev it without actually firing, or you can pull it, rev it, then fire, so you get the... So you can actually get your motors up to speed before it fires. This is phenomenal. But anyway, so the kit actually isn't switched on at the moment. That was just the lipo running via the MOSFET to the flywheels. Now, I don't know whether I explained it, but this has got Fangs revamped in it, in a morpheus cage with an aluminium guide, 42mm gap, worker wheels, the serrated teeth wheels, and it spits lasers. It's unreal. Some people say that you shouldn't run the Fangs revamped on 3S. If you're going to run them for a long period of time and get them to the point where they heat up like a mofo, then yeah, not a good idea. And in an aluminium cage, then yes, it'll act as a heatsink to cool them quicker. When you're only running it for short bursts and short periods of time, and you're not flowing streams of darts out of it, heating up like that isn't going to be an issue, so you don't have to worry too much. But let me run you through the operation of the kit. So you press and hold your mag release and it will switch on, as you saw. It then goes through its load up process, giving you a percentage of readiness, 95%, 100%, and then your kit is engaged. Alright, now your 3 dashes are telling you that there's no darts present. So I load the magazine, comes up, tells you 0. Now as you fire a dart, that counts, so it acts as a dart counter. This is a little joystick on here. It's not just a standard button like push button. It actually has, it's omnidirectional, and through the different functionalities, through holding it left, holding it right, holding it down, holding it up, pushing it and holding it down, etc., you can stay with me, you can adjust the rate of fire. You can adjust the RPMs of the motors, of the flywheel motors. You can set a voltage drop alarm, so once your battery gets down to a certain voltage, it will give you an alarm, and it will count your darts for you as it fires as well. So this kit will do all that. So you can increase or decrease your rate of fire. You know, if you've got a certain FPS limit, you can increase and decrease the RPMs of your flywheel motors to give you the desired FPS for your game. And then at the flick of a switch, you've got your single, triple shot burst, or full auto. The kit's phenomenal. It's beautiful. I love it. So, I kid you not, if you get the chance, if you can, get yourself one. Like, I mean, this now would have to be my favourite blaster. I mean, you know, obviously it's my themed. It's, you know, it's got my name on it. Jodocast name there. You've got your Mandalorian skull. I've done it in like a Jodocast paint scheme. Jodocast is like Boba Fett's nemesis. Similar character, does the full Mandalorian armor. In fact, he used to pass himself off as Boba Fett every now and again. Yeah, as you can see, I've got the Mandalorian Death's head on the back here, 3D printed, then glued into place and what have you. Also, that's Mandalorian for Jodocast. That's in the Mandalorian language. And you've got the Journeyman symbol there, which is a symbol common to the Mandalorians. And then I've done sort of a similar paint scheme to, it's sort of like Boba Fett, but a bit more sort of a lighter green and more of a yellowy than the deeper colour that he has. You still got your sort of magenta, or your highlights, your kill stripes at the front there. Yeah, and it's got the battle damage look, and then some black scoring and what have you through blaster fire, etc. So that's the idea of the look of it. So yeah, so that's it. So I'm very happy with how it's turned out. It's come out really nice. Fire's fantastic. So speaking of which, we'll set up the chronometer and we'll put some shots over the chronometer and see what it's actually spitting darts at. Okay, so that's my Mandalorian themed Jodocast Stryfe Select Fire mod with the V6 Select Fire kit from Light Take. I hope you liked it. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. And thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Cheers.